energy can never be created nor destroyed, right? This is a part of you. It's not going anywhere. Like you can't like, when people are like, I have to destroy the identity or this part of me, it's like, no, you don't. That's a part of you. You can transmute it. You can nurture it into a healthy version of itself, which is actually what is necessary. But if you don't express it, if you just push it away, you hide it or whatnot, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to go down in the basement. It's going to lift weights until it's strong enough to get your attention and mess everything up.
Welcome to the Body Joy After Office Hours podcast, where I sit down and chat it up with Mos Jef. I just really love this man so much. He's a master level Shadow EFT practitioner and the founder of Sanctum Institute of Life Harmonization. Tonight, we get into ways to access the deeper parts of ourselves, aka the shadow aspects, in order to interrupt and even integrate the parts of us that may be sabotaging the show in real life, relationships, and even parts of our sexuality. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Mos Jef, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we know each other from Nevada County, and we actually I didn't see and feel like the magic of your work until I was like on my way out and on my way to Texas. But I also remember taking your training in Mexico, and you are a master level Shadow EFT practitioner. So would you mind sharing what is that exactly?
Yeah.
Did
No
I?
problem. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of people have heard of EFT at this point, the
Mhm.
emotional technique, and there's a lot of different flavors of it. Like you got like positive EFT or rapid EFT or matrix reimprinting or anyways. And so, like I said, there's a lot of different flavors of it. And the methodology that I have developed as a result of just a lot of exploration and a lot of experimentation and a lot of self-study and so forth is, I mean, I was trained as an EFT practitioner and went from like advanced level to master level and continued learning and exploring with other therapists, other coaches and so forth, and kept on paying attention to what was really working for me and what I could consistently and like reliably replicate in my own experience and with the people that I was working with. And then eventually there came this kind of like threshold where the majority of people that I was working with, the majority of my clients were EFT practitioners. And they kept on saying something very consistently to me, saying like this, hey, what you are doing is different. Like this is no longer traditional EFT. This isn't what we understand. You're doing something different. How are you doing that? What are you doing? And like I said, there was just enough of an ask for it that eventually I just kind of reverse engineered the process and was like, okay, what am I doing? And mapped it all out and realized like, oh, what have I created here? And then just started hosting like practitioner enhancement programs. And then that eventually just coalesced into an entire retreat situation and then a curriculum.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible. I mean, my early experiences with EFT were very surfacey. I sat with somebody and got led through what I would say is a pretty basic process. And I just remember it like feeling good, to tap on my body and follow the sequence, but it wasn't, there was something different about that. I remember the way that you did it. And then when I started seeing the way that you would kind of bring in the shadow aspects, and it was really similar to some of the stuff that I did with hypnotherapy. There was just some similarity. So as I was in session with you, or as I was even at the training, I was like, oh, this is so freaking cool. So do you want to share just somatically and just what's the mechanics in your experience of EFT, and why do you think it just kicks so much ass?
For sure. Okay. Well, like the whole shadow part of the shadow EFT is like it's informed by shadow integration and depth psychology, but there's a deep somatic element there because, and this is one of the reasons why I think that it lands, or why I experience it landing in the way that it does, because it's through the communication of sensation, like through the medium of sensation and tracking like subtle sensation in the body, moving into relationship with it. And it's like we experience emotions as sensation in the body, but it's like through that lens or through that access point, as I understand it, that we get into and connect with the places in our mind and in our body that existed before we had language or cognition. And so it goes as deep as is possible. And like one of my axioms is that basically like 95% of the problems that humans face as a collective just has to do with feelings that they don't want to feel. It's this approach and framework and technology actually makes the most excruciating experiences that we can feel manageable and safe and creates a sense of like agency, but also capacity in ourselves to actually be with the things that we typically react away from or shy away from. And in doing so, then that's kind of like it invites a robustness in the system and in the psyche. It's like, no, I can handle this. And the things that I used to be afraid of, I am no longer afraid of. I'm not shying away from this. I can actually handle it. And in being able to allow myself to experience in entirety the thing that was painful, it actually kind of ceases to be painful. And that's where the healing aspect, it's like these places of unprocessed pain that really do like govern the way that we function in the world and our identity and like all the protective patterns that we've created to get away from it. If we just expose ourselves to it intentionally and dissolve it and release the resistance that we have in the mind and in the body around it, then it ceases to actually be a painful thing. And then we become free. Different person shows up.
Mhm. How do you know or how does someone know that they're actually finding a shadow piece? Because there's a lot of talk right now about shadow work, and I'm noticing it's not all the same, and so I like to, like, lean in and be like, "Okay, how do you know? And how are people dealing with the shadow?" And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah, maybe if you wanna share about I mean, I'll share with one of my shadows that I found at the retreat, and you can share about maybe one of yours, but
yeah.
what does that early exploration look like for someone that maybe notices that, "Hey, I've got some emotions or I've got some patterns showing up in my life. I'm looking for something that actually helps me heal through it instead of taking, say, 20, 30 years of talk therapy." Yeah. What does that look like?
I mean, some of the key characteristics that I could say is like, hey, like you got some shady bits, rocking your process right now. It's like if you are consistently coming up against the same types of patterns or blocks or struggles in your life, and it's like it doesn't matter what you do, you've tried everything, but you still are coming up against this piece that's just messing you up, basically, then that's an indication that you most likely have some unconscious like things existing underneath your functional awareness that are consistently bringing you back into a continuation of this unending process. So that shows up in like relationships, that shows up in work, that shows up in, I mean, there's really nothing off the table here, but that's one of the key places that I would say like, hey, like it seems that you might have some shadow work available here, which is just like, hey, you've tried everything else and you are still like, you cannot stop this maladaptive thing that you're doing or this like weird relationship that you keep getting into or this like protective, like reactive thing that keeps on happening in you, no matter how much you talk about it, no matter how much therapy, no matter how many retreats that you go to, no matter how much time you spend crying on a yoga mat, like whatever, you tried everything, but this still seems to be a pattern. That's an indication that there's just something deeper and deeper and deeper that just hasn't gotten its little psychological itch scratched.
Mhm. And how do you feel when you hear people say, "Well, you just called that in?"
Like,
You just called that
I
in.
mean, like, I don't wanna jump too furious, but, like, yeah, like, just like, oh, there's the injustice involved with, like, "Oh, you just pulled that in." It's like, I get protective. I get like, "Oh, that's like, like, no, that's a yeah, I don't like that." And, like, because but it also, like, that really I mean, that's kinda context dependent as well,
Sure.
like, if that's a conversation that's having in a like happening in a relationship is what I immediately like poked into. I was just like, oh, get out. Your partner's saying that, like, get out. As opposed to like there is all like in a different context. Like for instance, like like you got someone spiraling in victim mindset and
Mm,
it's just like it's happening to them. Right.
mhm.
And actually the way to kind of shift out of that experience is to actually be able to honestly self-assess, like, well, are there ways in which I am actually like perpetuating this and like creating this? And that's like and that's a really fine line to walk as far as, like not I mean, definitely running the risk of or accounting for like, no, we're not talking about victim shaming here,
Right.
but context dependent. It's like, well, hey, like, I mean, potentially one of the reasons that I have stayed stuck in patterns for longer than I needed to, or like in shitty situations, was because I was outsourcing responsibility by blaming other people as opposed to just being like, hey, like, here's what I'm doing. And in taking responsibility for like how I am actually continuing the situation, I can actually empower myself to do something about it. Like that's one of the other ways of looking through that lens. But when people are saying like, oh yeah, you're just calling this in, it's like, well, like, I mean, and like that
Yeah.
can hold weight. that can be used in, like, in a manipulative fashion, like, that can be
Mhm.
used to all of like, to avoid responsibility or, like, not take accountability or ownership, so, like, yeah, like, that's something to track.
Or secondary gain.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, like, yeah,
Mhm.
some sort of hidden benefit as well. And there's also definitely something about, like, hey, the unspoken thoughts and that have been repeated so often that they turn into unconscious beliefs and so forth, like, those 100% do register in our energy, and they register in our nervous system and our heart field variability, and are communicated in the lexicon and the psycholinguistics that we use, and, like, body language and eye contact, all of that is being broadcasted and is being picked up and, like, resonating with, the people who we attract ourselves to, or who are attracted to us. So in some sense, like, yeah, there is actually like a degree of how I do not realize the ways in which I am communicating is actually inviting in things in my experience as well. And so
Mhm.
clearing that up and coming from a more congruent or internally integrated or empowered space, like, yeah, that is actually going to show up and have a ripple effect in what I experience and the results that I have in the world around me.
Yeah, I had a pretty powerful experience at your retreat, and then there was, like, another session that I did with one of your students, just around people that I wouldn't say call in, but more about, like, allow and just entertain, let's say, and,
Mhm.
really getting to the core of the parts of me that were kind of making space for things that were just unhealthy, and it was a pattern that goes way back. It was big. Yeah.
Yeah, as they do, and that's kind of the nuts and bolts around why piggybacking around to, like, your question around, like, why does this go so deep, and how does this go so deep, and why does this do the things that it does? It's because we're learning how to gain access to and move into, like, relationship and communication with pieces of ourselves that go back a really long way. And they got added, like, in some cases, like, pre-verbal and so forth, and being able to communicate with and, like, validate those existing experiences, because ultimately that's like what we're like, all of our protective mechanisms are built up to take care of the most vulnerable pieces of us. And this is a way of being able to, like, this process, or like this framework and methodology is a way of being able to, like, not only get in contact with them but actually take care of them as well in the way that they
Mhm.
needed, and then in a way that is still, like, being manifested or called for or asked for, like, in the present moment. And that's kind of cool. It's like the present moment, like what I'm experiencing right now, that is always going to be the access point into the deepest parts or the youngest pieces of myself. And, like, story is helpful sometimes, but ultimately, like, it's not always necessary. Like, I get people asking, like, do I have to remember, like, what happened to me in order to be able to heal completely? And my answer to that is, like, no, like, actually, you don't. You got to, like, if there's something that you can notice active right here and now that you can feel in your body, then we have everything that we need to actually,
Mhm.
like, effectively.
I'm glad that you said take care of, because there seems to be this idea, or I notice it in clients where they have a quote unquote negative emotion or thought or something kind of pop up, and they just want to kind of bury it or override it or say, no, I've got to like kill that part of me, or, get rid of it somehow. And so this sweet integration or showing that it's actually a really valuable, important part of ourselves. I think I remember you saying, and it stuck with me, of like these shadow aspects. If you try to like push them into the shadow, they're just going to go in the basement, do push-ups, and come back.
Yeah,
And that's so
100%.
true.
For real though, for real though. I honestly, I feel like, I mean, I heard that metaphor. I don't even remember where I heard it, like, so many years ago, like, had to have been, like, 10 years ago. And it's just like, yeah, that's real. Like, that is, like, definitely, like, because it's like, I mean, there's a couple of different lenses that you could look at it. Like, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? Like, there's just like, this is a part of you. It's not going anywhere. Like, you can't, like, when people are like, I have to destroy, like, the identity or this part of me. It's like, no, you don't. That's a part of you. You can transmute it. You can nurture it into a healthy version of itself, which is actually what is necessary. But yeah, if you don't express it, if you just push it away, you hide it or whatnot, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to go down in the basement. It's going to lift weights until it's strong enough to get your attention and mess everything up. And then at that point, it's moving with, like, the uncontrollable, like, the irresistible force of impulse. Cause it's like,
Mhm.
that's when I get triggered, and all of a sudden I turn into another person and I'm like, and bite somebody's head off.
Yeah, like I think of my inner ice queen comes out, and until I really met her, man, she was sharp And
Yeah.
so now she's off in her Polly Pocket world. I created this manageable space for her when before she was just like, for those of you who are listening, I don't know if you understand it, but like, these parts of ourselves, sometimes it's nice to like really like see them and visualize their costume or what they're wearing and really like go for it so that I don't know, for me, I'm very visual. So like, seeing my Ice Queen crown and see the ways that she would come in and just like level the field and like really be harsh to people because I needed that at one time. But now as an adult, and this is the deeper work that I got to do, is that now my more integrated, like calm person can kind of come forward. The Ice Queen could be like, "Hey, I'm kind of seeing something over there," but she can do something else instead of like burning the whole house down or
Right. What a paradox. The Ice Queen burns everything down.
I know. She's got a machete of fire for some reason. I don't know. I don't ask these questions.
Yeah, and it's like in coming into awareness of the aspect and I remember like that really like once upon a time, like I was in session with somebody and I was working with like, I don't know, some protected piece of me and like who and it was actually I was receiving from one of the students, one of the practitioners in a in the Sanctum in the training. And I was getting work. And yeah, and I was expressing from like a different place in my mind or from what I and the student would like caught it and actually gave me a dose of my own medicine, which is amazing, and was just like, "Who is that? And what is he wearing right now?" And I like like start laughing and
What?
crying and like got my attention brought to a piece of me that was orchestrating the show that I didn't even realize was there. And like that's the psychological breakthrough and one of the most powerful pieces of the whole process. It's like because I imagine that when you first came into contact with, your protector, like the Ice Queen, like that was a piece that you might not have been, most likely were not completely aware of was there
No.
and running the show. And then in coming into awareness of like, holy smokes, like that is a whole ass thing. That is a whole developed aspect of my mind that
Yeah.
literally that is the lens through which I see the world. And now I realize that it's a lens and it's over there and I'm looking at it and my entire world is shifting as a result of it. And it's like, it's just, it's one of the most exhilarating and simultaneously like excruciating experiences in the world. But like once you have that experience and you realize like, oh my goodness, I have many pieces of my mind that function in the exact same way, then it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of like Pokemon. It's just like, I got to get them all, you know?
Well, once I was aware of it, then it made it I was able to work with it versus like, "Oh, I'm just being a bitch," or, "Oh, I'm feeling very frozen." Like, I literally would feel frozen, I would feel cunty, I would feel really short. I'm
For
like,
sure.
"What is that?" But now, it's like, it's just it feels and operates way different, and it took me a couple times of, like, almost like getting to know her and just, like, really sitting with her.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I had a similar experience where I was just like, "Oh my god, like, I'm not a dick. I'm just having a survival response right now." Like, "Oh my god, like, I'm not an asshole." Like, I literally have a protective piece up that's saying, like, "Everybody get away from me because I need to take care of a terrified little kid right now."
Which brings me to a point. Don't you think it's beautiful to have friendships, relationships, and maybe even talk about some dynamics with you and Fabi, your wife, of when we know the people that we love have these parts and we can see and feel when they start to get spiky or come out, we can
Mhm.
actually care for them on the other side and love them. I love that about community.
For sure, yeah, and that's
Mm.
definitely, like it's one of the aspects or points that gets reflected really continuously to me from everybody who engages in, like, in this type of work, which is, like, in developing more effective and healthy relationships with the internal pieces of me, then I turn around and, like, all of my other relationships are enhanced as a result because I'm basically just interacting with a whole bunch of parts of another person as well. So as I've become more aware of and more like accepting of my prickly pieces, then when I turn around, like, someone else is getting activated, I have like the relationship that I have with my own internal aspects serves as the template through which I interact with everybody else. So when my partner is getting prickly, like instead of getting reactive around it, now I have curiosity and like compassion. It's like, oh, I get it. I get it. This is like, I'm not going to take this personally. And I have way more space for this because I've integrated my relationship with this in myself. And it really does smooth things out like amazingly, like in learning how to look deeper into ourselves and becoming more accepting and more caring and more supportive of ourselves in that way than we do. And like, it really does just shift the way that we interact with everybody else in our life, especially the people closest to us.
Could you imagine if this was just something that everyone did in school and they started developing this? Could you imagine, like,
I
how
do.
amazing?
I do. I'm trying to imagine it. I'm trying to imagine it more. And like, I was just thinking about this before we got on the call. It's like, no, like, this isn't really like this isn't incredibly normal right now. And I'm doing the best that I can to make it more normal, as are you, right? It's just like, yeah, I can actually imagine. I could imagine what it would have been like for me to have been in middle school or high school or whatever. And people started teaching me these frameworks and techniques, just like, oh, mother of God, that could have saved me so much bullshit.
So
Like,
much.
damn, dude, like learn how to learn how to develop a deep, like foundational acceptance of self, which grounds myself and makes the entire world easier to navigate. Like no matter what happens, I've got me. Like, yeah, I would have loved to have had that in middle school for sure. So
Phew.
like, yeah, so imagining what that could look like to get more like readily dispersed throughout our collective in whatever medium it can, like, yeah, absolutely. Which is like kind of why we do what we do, you know?
So amazing. Making it even available in other communities that may not have the resources to do it, like, just having this more available,
Yeah,
yeah, would be pretty incredible.
100%.
So, what are your thoughts on, someone that starts this and thinks it's, "Okay, I'm gonna do a couple sessions." It feels like you're kinda, I imagine, kinda digging up the carpet, and this is a lifelong thing, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. It's context dependent again. It depends on the
Mhm.
person and depends on like what they got going on, what they're coming in for. And here's something that I thought about actually earlier on in the call when you're like, like I have this surface level experience with like EFT and that kind of made me think, like I get that. Like I've heard that from people like, oh yeah, it's that kind of annoying like modality that, it's like, like I love it. It doesn't really, and there's a
It's
part
not
of me.
landing.
Exactly, and there's a part of me that's like,
Yeah.
"Ah, dude, that's making so much more work for, those of us who actually have an understanding of how deep it can go," in a sense,
Mhm.
because it's like, if you are not 100% just like, "Yo, I need to learn and, like, explore this as much as I possibly can," then that's an indication that the person just hasn't experienced, like, what is actually available and on the table and possible with this. Bringing it back around to, like, your most recent question now, it's on one level, like, yeah, it does and can be a lifelong process if you want it to. Like you can take it as far as you want. I definitely have some people who will come through and they're like, "Hey, I've been talking to a therapist for this thing or about this thing for years, and like in a session or two we knock it out." And they're like, "Great, I'm good." And they go off
Mhm.
and, do the rest of their thing. And then other people have the experience of like, "I know that I have dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of pieces of my mind that are waiting to get cleaned up and taken care of in the exact same way. And I'm not going to stop until I get them all." Oh, and I'm also biased in the sense of like, yeah, Dennis is probably going to tell people that they should keep on brushing their teeth. I'm like, yeah, no, it's good for you. Like, yes, definitely keep doing your inner work to the extent that feels good for you because as long as I'm a human, then I'm going to have things to attend to, like either in my own world or in my support of the people that I love and so forth. Like there's always something to do and something to move towards. And that's not a bad thing. Like there's just driving purpose and a reason to get out of bed and like, something like the satisfaction of moving towards something that is important to us.
What about your opinion on, or just your experience of, people doing their own shadow work on themselves?
From the statement of like taking this as far as you want to go, because you can get focused work and you can do and it's really good and really helpful because that collapses time in a sense. Like you will save yourself a lot of time and energy by working with someone who has eyes on your process and be able to see the things that you can't see because the mind does and will hide things even when we're trying to share it with somebody else.
Yeah, slippery fish.
So there's that. But developing this into an internal skill set that you can take with you and bust out anytime that you need, that is also the other, I would say, most valuable aspect of this. To be able to have like a reliable skill set that you know that you can turn to and have a framework of being able to utilize it with that like straight up helps you navigate every and any difficult experience and like in the human spectrum, that's solid gold. Like that's irreplaceable. That's priceless. That's like, okay, now I'm experiencing upset, I'm experiencing depression, I'm experiencing anxiety, like I can feel myself starting to move into a panic attack and I know what to do to create a sense of internal safety, nervous system safety really rapidly and really effectively in myself. Like yeah, like that's in some cases the difference between, like life and death. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, that's insane. To be able to do that and to be able to have like the sense of safety and security or fortitude and agency in myself to know that I can do that, like, a game changer. The ability as a result of having that practice to the point that I can turn around and immediately help somebody else if and when, also like equally as priceless. Yeah. And like in a couple of weeks, I'm running a workshop that is specifically around this. It's like, yes, there's EFT and yes, there's shadow integration, but here's how to be able to turn it into something that you can use on yourself anytime that you need to. And that is a high level internal skill set that is so valuable for as many people as possible to understand how to do
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that's wonderful. I catch myself using some of the tapping sequences. Do you wanna share just from a soma perspective, like, what does the actual tapping do? What are we actually tapping on?
Yep. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, for sure. Yeah, okay, so EFT, the tapping, right? It's like you're tapping on acupressure points. And this is where like the Chinese medicine starts to come into the foray. And for people who aren't familiar with meridians, I guess, because this is a meridian-based tapping approach, methodology. Imagine that you got a grid of subtle energy, electromagnetic energy going up and down your body, because you do. And acupuncture points are just dots on those lines. Those lines are called meridians. You have 12 major meridians that make up or that are contained within your body. And so when you are tapping on yourself, you're tapping on acupressure points, which is sending pulses of electromagnetic energy into your meridian system, like flicking a lighter flint, kinetic energy, same type of stimulation. And so what is happening as you tap on these points is well, a bunch of things are happening in the body. For our intents and purposes with Shadow EFT, most importantly, is the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems that are being activated, like kind of at the same time. So there's a degree of activation, just like I said, that's the sympathetic response. It's like you're telling your body, you're commanding or influencing the body to wake up and become alert and get ready to roll, right? It's like low level activation, like not too high. Otherwise, then we fizz out. But there's a degree of like wake up, be present, get ready to roll. And it's incredibly helpful when we're working with like numbed out or repressed emotional signatures. This is kind of how we excavate it and bring things up to the surface. And more importantly, more predominantly, I would say, is the parasympathetic activation that's happening while you're tapping on yourself. Because as we are tapping on ourselves, we are also telling ourselves that everything is okay and that I'm completely safe and that I can relax and I'm completely safe in my body, that I'm so safe that I could actually sit down and take a poop if I wanted to. That's the rest and
Whoa.
digest. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Straight up. Straight up, straight up.
Yeah.
It's wild, but that's legitimately, it's like this is everything is okay and I'm completely safe in my body. So if you give your attention to something that carries with it an distressing emotional signature, and like there's nothing off the table here, that can be anger, that can be worry, that can be regret, guilt, shame, physical pain, like nothing off the table here, then two things will happen. If you continue to tap and remember to breathe, you will experience the entirety of the emotion, which is a good thing. That's how bodies process and release and create capacity in our system. And so you'll feel the thing. And at the same time, you will be diminishing the intensity of the thing because you're communicating safety to the body. And so you'll be discharging from the nervous system, stored energy from the nervous system, while at the same time fortifying the body to basically internally referencing itself and saying like, hey, I'm strong enough to actually be able to handle this. And this is becoming less and less and less painful to the point
Mhm.
where I could be thinking about something that was really messing me up. And like, I was like really upset or really scared or whatever. And I tap on it and let myself breathe and process for a little bit. And then I can tune back into that thing and find myself completely clear, completely clean, like no contraction, no hint of a negative emotional response. And that's basically how we utilize this to help people very effectively and thoroughly process and alleviate complex PTSD in a very short amount of time. Right.
Mhm.
Like that's an aspect, and that's kind of just the beginning of it because that's before you get into intentionally cultivating and influencing, nurturing thought forms of compassion and empathy and love and forgiveness and so forth into these places of stored pain, which that's what nurtures like these old pain points into the healthiest versions of themselves. And that's where we begin to integrate like really effectively. That's a long answer.
I love it. Yeah, so the tapping alone is something that helps the nervous system kind of de-escalate, if you will, the tapping and the deep breath, the sigh of
Mhm.
relief, and then the next piece, you leading them through a very succinct process. Again, it's very unique to any other EFT thing that I've done, which
Hmm.
is pretty magical. Do you want to tell me a little bit about just like the early days of taking the training and living in Nevada County and
Oh man, I'd been in years of training before I made it to Nevada County, actually.
okay. Yep.
Yeah, actually got no, I mean, the first time that I ever was exposed to it was actually at a workshop at Burning Man.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, take us
And
back. That must have been your teacher.
yep, that was Sonia. Yeah, Sonia
So,
Sophia,
yeah,
the founder of the Sophia School of Living Arts.
amazing.
I was in the dark night of the soul slash full on crisis of the, the typical wounded healer journey of just like, okay, things are bad enough now that I'm like ready and willing and desperate enough to try anything to get myself out of the place that I was in because it was just like, it was so bad. I was fucked up. And I tried everything to get myself out of the place that I was in because I was just like non-functioning. It was like beyond depressed. Like couldn't get out of bed, couldn't keep it off of my face, couldn't hold down a job. Like the entire world
Wow.
wanted to hate me. Like it was bad. And I literally like was having self-harming ideation, like planning things to intentionally leave like, this plane of existence. Like it was rough. And everything that I tried, I mean, nothing that I tried was really helping me at all to move the needle at all. Like I was like talk therapy, hypnotherapy, DMT ceremony, meditation retreat. I'd even learned EFT at that point, or I knew EFT, but I didn't really know how. I was like, okay, I love and accept myself. Nothing's working. Nothing works.
Yeah,
And yeah. And like, yeah, it was bad. And anyways, but I ended up but somehow I still managed to make it to Burning Man.
of course. Yeah.
Well, one of my friends, like I had a really good friend who's like, I got your ticket, I got your ticket, I got your camp dues. Just like make it out here. You need to get out of the space that you're in. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll try it. And then I made it out there. And I'm like, great, I'm suicidally depressed at Burning Man. This is horrible. But I found the same workshop that I had learned or that I had found a long time ago, which was Sonia, my mentor. And the first time that I had found this workshop out there, like it was before, I mean, it was at the very, very beginning before things had gotten really bad. And I took part in the process, but it didn't really like make sense. I didn't really feel anything. I was just like, yeah, I was tapping on myself. I'm like, I love and accept myself, but nothing's happening. Why are all these people crying around me? But
Hmm.
I had like a physical, like visceral experience where, yeah, like basically after that initial experience, I went back I went back to an eye doctor because I had just gotten fit for contact lens and she looked at my eyes and was like, what did you do? What's going on? And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And I was just like, I was just out in the desert and my eyes might be swollen. Like I lost my goggles. And she's like, yeah, I see that, but that doesn't explain what else I'm seeing. And I had astigmatism and one eye was bad and the other eye was worse. And after I got back from learning EFT for a couple of days, both of my eyes were exactly the same and better. I scientifically proved that I corrected my vision. I needed to change my prescription. And she's like, what did you do? And I
Whoa.
no, what else can I do? And that's before I accessed this on an emotional level. Right. That was before the dark night of the soul. After in the middle of the dark night of the soul, while I was just like super messed up, I found the same workshop and I was like, oh yeah, like the lady with like the tapping, maybe I've tried everything else, like I guess. And this time I just bawled and cried and released and snotted all over the place for like 2 hours and was just like, no, because I was acutely activated at that point. I was like, my pain body was super up. So I immediately felt what it felt like to begin to discharge from a place of ouch. Yeah, and at the end of it, I was still messed up. Like that was just like, I literally just like, like popped the cork and started to abscess the wound a little bit. I mean, in my mind, I was thought because there was dozens and dozens, like hundreds of people in this workshop, and I was like 80 yards away from the stage. I was all the way in the back. And my thought was like, yo, if you can do that to me without knowing anything about me, then I wonder what could happen if I got in contact with you and shared my process with you. And so I reached out and was like, I don't even know if this is a thing, but do you do one-on-one sessions? I was a good little burner. I got on her mailing list and whatnot. And I saw that she just happened to be coming through the area of California that I was at after Burning Man. And And so I sent her a message and was like, "Hey, do you do this? Do you do one-on-one sessions? I'll pay you." And she got back to me immediately and was like, "Yeah, meet me here." And so I met up with Sonia and had my first one-on-one experience of having an EFT session. And in like 90 minutes, just processed like 18 years of psychotherapy. It was just completely floored by it. And at the end of it, I was just like wiping tears and snot off of my face. Just like, I didn't even know you had it like that. Like, and she's like, I think that you might be really good at this. I'm going to hold the space open for you in my training intensive if you can make it. And yeah, and I
Awesome.
was like, oh, yeah, I was like, yo, if I feel this different after this long, then like, yes, I will study for weeks. And yeah. And at the end of that, came out of that like completely different critter and had a lot of work to do. Still wasn't done, but like, yeah, that really did open up my awareness into like, damn, okay, this is a thing. And at the end of it, I was like, you mean to tell me that I have a job at the end of this now? Like, I feel this good and this safe and this clear and this clean and this gets to be my baseline of how I
Yeah.
function in the world. But I can also share this with somebody else if I want to. Like, okay, absolutely. And like Sonia's like, yeah, you'll have a job. And I'm like, I'm never gonna do what you do. Like, I'm not gonna have a practice. I'm not gonna like teach retreats. I'm not gonna stand on stage of like hundreds of people and like teach this and whatnot. And even though all of that has happened at this point, but I
Mhm.
literally was like, I just want to feel better. And I know, and I found the thing that actually works, and I'm not gonna stop until nothing hurts anymore. And yeah, and that was 13 years ago, and things have not stopped getting better for me. And like, basically anybody who really learns this and understands this and synthesizes it and incorporates it into their existing XYZ, like, yeah, I mean, when it comes
That's
down
am
to it, it works.
Yeah. Is there ever anyone that you work with that there's a little bit of a like, it's a little difficult?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, for sure. There's not necessarily a cookie cutter approach, and there's so
Sure.
many different representations of, and there's 8 billion different representations of a human mind right now, and that's not accounting for all of their subpersonalities. Yeah, I mean, basically everybody that I work with, everybody that I ever worked with is a new person. And regardless of wherever they happen to be in their process, they are a new person. It's just like because we're constantly and rapidly evolving, like and shifting our identity every time that we engage in this process. So yeah, and so I've moved myself, or I've come into like, I mean, there's a difference between, there's a milestone that I reached at one point where I was like, did I just have a difficult session or did I have a learning session? Right. Where, because once upon a time, like probably, I don't know. I mean, I guess this was probably like around like 5 years into working as a practitioner where I made a shift where I was like, oh, wow, this person is like, they're like, this is difficult. And there's like a very consistent degree of resistance that's coming up here. And eventually I came into awareness of like, oh, I'm treating the resistance like it's a problem. And there's a part of me that's making it about me and I'm
Right.
annoyed about it. Right. And once I made the shift of realizing like, oh, if I'm coming up against resistance, that's an indication that that is like exactly where we want to be, and this is right on the threshold of the most important piece. And this is actually a really good thing. Then yeah, and then like that internal reframe basically like shifted me from a practitioner being like, oh God, like I'm coming up against something to like, okay, now I'm actually excited and like very, very like present and here with this moment. So now it's just like no, like I don't really like have difficult, people anymore. I have fascinating case studies. Like that's what I
Yeah.
have.
I imagine,
Right.
like, just sitting on the edge of your seat, like, with your little note
Straight up.
taker.
Like, I have not seen this before. Like, what? It's like, yes, tell me more.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, and that's like truly like that's what makes us good. That's how we grow. And it's how we learn, it's how we get better, and it's how we develop. Is just like when like making that internal shift for myself. And like now I just like, I harp this to people. I'm like, hey, if it's difficult for you to think about, that's a good sign. That means you're learning. That's an important and necessary part of the process. That means you are carving out new neural pathways right now. It is supposed to be difficult the first time. That's a
Yeah.
good sign. That means that you're making your brain do something that it's never done before. And the next time you do it, it's going to get easier. So like lean into that. It's not something to immediately shut down in the face of. This is actually like, no, this is a good sign. Like you got to put in your reps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciated that you brought up, just a level of some sort of difficulty is, pointing to exactly where you might wanna go.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, there's, it's, and with and bringing it back around to like developing this as an internal skill set that you can use with you. I mean, ultimately, what happens is people start to train themselves and being able to recognize, like, oh, I've got internal resistance here. And like and now I know that this is exactly where I need to lean in. Where before I might have unconsciously like procrastinated or put it off. But eventually, like we train and program ourselves into automatically leaning into the places where we used to shy away. And
Mhm.
that's and I think that that's one of the most fascinating and encouraging side effects of engaging in shadow work is when you find yourself doing the thing that you used to hold yourself back from doing, but you didn't make the decision to do it. It's like you were like, whoa, I am now reflexively, automatically moving towards the thing that I was afraid of, as opposed to allowing it to govern my life.
Mhm. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
How does it do you have any magic you'd like to share about people incorporating this in the context of their relationships, their sexuality?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Really good question and super important. Um, because it benefits basically every aspect of relating, as I understand it. Like, and sexuality is just like it's such fertile ground for both for harm, both for damage, both for repression, and then also for evolution as well. And it's just like, I mean, that is legitimately the most powerful aspect or energy that makes up our entire system. It's just like that's everything there. Having like developing a healthy relationship with your sexuality, with our sexual energy, with our essence, with our like the creativity that comes from it. This is like, I mean, this is moving in accordance with like just like the biologically pre-programmed, like, hey, check it. This is the most important thing, the continuation of the species. Okay. Like this is like, there's no arguing with this. You might as well just get on board with it. And as that translates into like our experience of relationship and partnership and so forth. I mean, so my wife was probably might have been the first person that I heard say this, where it's like I've never felt so safe and so turned on at the same time. And right. And I literally was like, oh yeah, like you could have both. Like you could have both.
Yeah.
You don't need to be in a toxic relationship to have like mind blowing sex, like even though that's like a
Yeah.
lot of people do, or like they're the only way they can experience it. And then
Right.
when things start to feel safe, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, and then the boner goes away. It's just like, oh yeah, now this is boring. Like, this is, but to be able to, and this is like, here's how I understand it and explain it now. It's like, in order for me to be as completely open with, like my person or someone that I'm sharing myself with, then there can't be any contraction. There can't be any protectiveness, right? And so if I have unconscious or shame-based bits and pieces that are just like, and that's active in the field, then yeah, then that's 100% going to
Yep.
manifest itself in the sexual dynamics between me and the other person.
Yeah.
To be able to be with their pieces as they get activated as well. So like, yes, understanding and learning this like internal skill set 100% translates into every aspect of relating for sure. Like both
Mhm.
in communication, both in being able to like understand or express from our places of pain or fear or whatever, our desire, whatever, or even like even more mechanically, like the circuitry that is involved with anger is the exact same circuitry that is involved with desire. And so if there is a repression in one aspect, that's definitely going to bleed into the other. And so the places of not feeling safe to express like our anger or our sadness, our grief, our like whatever, that is absolutely going to translate into feeling safe or anticipating being able to be received in the expression of our sexuality as well. So there's a lot on the table there.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, once we're able to really get into all those emotions and have safety and integration, then I ar argue that a lot of turn on and a lot of authenticity kinda comes from that, when you have safety and you can take off the masks and really, like, bare yourself quite literally and figuratively with your community or the person that you're with or whatever. Um, it's beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's like And and I think that there's something really, like, really, really, really beautiful and necessary about being able to do this work, like, in relationship as well. Because just like what we were saying, like, what we were talking about kind of at the beginning of, like, how this communicates with pieces of you that existed before you add thought and language and so forth, and, like, just what is communicated by, like, a reassuring or sensual touch, between people, like, that's like you can mindset work all you want and like there's no substitute for that, like there's no
Yeah.
substitute for like a safe body against a safe body. And
Yep.
so I mean,
Like
and
true
understand.
safety. Like
Yeah.
true safety, not just someone saying, "I'm a safe person." It's like, does their how they're showing up and what they're doing in the world, and does their words match their actions? It's a deep, deep frequency. Yeah,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah, exactly. That's congruence. It's like, no, 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 no. Like there's a part of me that has already decided whether or not I feel safe before cognition has come online. And like that's the realm that we get to move into, and why experiences of liberation or healing in intimacy is so fucking powerful, because it's like, hey, check it. Like this is like your animal body right now. Like, and you cannot logic your way out of a survival response. So yeah, so it's like checking, like here are the different components and different pieces, and like let's like address this at the most fundamental level possible. So like yeah, you have an integrated, like you have two integrated minds or integrative like mindsets moving into an intimate setting, then like that's also a completely different playing field, completely different
Mhm.
ballgame. And what can happen there as a result of that gets to be so magnificently like enhanced and magnified as well. Where it's just like, yeah, in some ways I've had people experience this, reflect this to me before, like how they have experiences in relationship, have experiences in intimacy, and then they lean in and do this kind of work for a little while. And then they go back into those experiences and they're like, what the fuck happened? Like, this is completely different now. Like, my God. Um,
Do
you
you
know?
wanna speak to, again, like you could I don't want you to feel pressure to share anything, but something that you've really explored in yourself and your own, I mean, erotic life or relationship that's really up leveled, or
Yeah, super good question. Okay, let me think about that.
going through the memory files. Let's see. Let's
Yeah,
pick a
like
good
I'm
one.
going. Basically, I'm like, okay, I check it. Like, let me just reference like, like every relational counseling session that we've had. Like, I'm telling, like, I'm going into like every like attachment experience,
Mhm.
because I know that there's got to be a really good example here of how shadow work and EFT has shown up in erotic and relational work or settings or experiences. I mean, okay, okay. So all right, I got it. I knew we'd get there.
Do you have to okay, go ahead. I'm ready.
Being able to come into connection with and actually begin to not even begin to, but effectively and thoroughly access and begin to work with, process, and release an experience of shame. Like huge. Because and it was wild for me, because I've been like at that point, and this is like, I don't know. I mean, this is, years and years and years and years of doing this type of work and like helping people process like sexual trauma and XYZ. So putting that lens back on myself, and in the way of like what like and really being able to recognize how a shame-based identity could get activated in like a lovemaking session, where and recognize it. And this is so at one point, or I mean and like at a specific like chapter or era, I guess, like in relationship, yeah, I had no idea how influenced I was by like the belief or the thought form of like, I'm not enough or I'm too much, like somehow at the same time, right? Like there's something wrong with the way that I am. And even though, and these belief systems and like that identity, they weren't influenced as a result of sexual encounters. Like they were deeper than that. They were younger than that, but they were still active in them. And it's like, and that could happen in intimacy, that could happen in erotic experiences, but it also could just happen in like in conversations and repair conversations. But realizing that like, wow, there's a shame based thing here that I like, kind of like what we were talking about with like, your ice queen, or my like, I guess like more like beast aspect that I didn't realize was there, that I didn't really name earlier in the conversation or in the interview. But like, but that's my experience of it, or my representation of it. But in coming into awareness of like this really protective piece part of me that did not want to be seen and was so good at not being seen, that it would like really like just like, no, 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 don't even look at this, like just like divert your attention over there. And when this was active, I would get super like incredibly, I guess, like sure prickly, sure reactive, but more along the lines of like, no, 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 it's different. I would shut down. I would like that was my avoidant kind of thing. I'm just like, nope, I'm
Mm.
gonna just withdrawn and quiet and internal, but it would happen so subtly that like I wouldn't even notice it.
So your partner almost was your partner able to see it and reflect it back to you, or how did you find it?
For sure. I mean, because like
Wow.
Fabi would be like, "What is that? Like,
What's that?
what was that?
What's
What's
happening
that?"
right now?
Thank God, like, thank goodness, like I'm
Wow.
in it. Like I'm with someone who's so good at tracking because like we really can't hide each other. And I do it to her all the time too. And it's like, and she'd be like, "What was that?" And I'd be like, "Nothing." And she's like, "What was that?" And I'm like, "Fuck." So
Nothing.
you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, "Oh no, I can't hide from anybody."
And I imagine because the 2 of you have this, like, loving, safe partnership, you can actually point to shadow pieces that you're noticing and have it feel relatively safe to be exposed, whereas there may be some containers where it's even more layers of difficulty, having it seen and witnessed and pointed out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, like even in like, there's like I definitely experience more safety in, this relationship than in any other relationship that I've ever been in. And still, like, even in that, like, there's like, hey, I don't want to fucking talk about it right now. Don't point at it. Like, like, I did not give consent for this. Okay. Like, and sometimes it's like, I'm not ready to be coached right now. Like, I'm having a thing,
Yes. 2 co
like,
2 powerful coaches coaching each other.
oh man, we definitely gotta be like, okay, listen, like, there's like, don't be my coach, just be my partner right now.
There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, so and this is like once again like this there's not an off limits for which domain like these pieces or this avoidant aspect of mine would show up in because like it would be like it could be like washing the dishes or breakfast first thing in the morning or like like date night or like whatever. It's just like there's the the psyche really doesn't give a damn about set and setting when it gets activated or triggered or decides to take something personally. So
Right.
that used to be like, like such a big thing for me, which was just like, yo, like, okay, like I'm like some part of me would feel called out or criticized or whatnot. And then the immediate, just like, okay, that's it. Like done playing now would get activated. And in being able to like identify that and work with it and like, like run myself through my own process, engage in like, like somatic supportive interventions with each other, then that's just lessened and dissolved and disarmed and is not, not so much of a thing anymore. And that's an indication or an example of just like a very deep and tricky pattern that was running the show without me even being able to like truly being cognizant of it into like coming into awareness of it, making it conscious, and then working with it effectively and consistently over time until it softened, relaxed, got nurtured, and then got automated and went back to being something that was unconscious. But now it is a supportive, like nurturing relationship that has been automated. If and when it does get active, it's just like, cool. Like that's like, that doesn't hurt anymore. It's just like, no, this piece got loved up and taken care of to the point where like now it's just something that's kind of always taking care of me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? Like,
Freedom,
that's what I'm
freedom.
talking about. That's the idea. That's the goal.
That's beautiful. Well, Mos Jef, do you want to share with the listeners what you got going on? What you got coming up?
Coming up, yeah, depending on when this is released, but I'm going to be hosting just like a self-integration workshop where I'll be teaching like the framework in which like my particular framework that I've developed kind of in response. I mean, basically, I developed this method of teaching this to basically equip people as effectively and efficiently as possible to be able to do this kind of work when they just had no time. And yeah, so I'm going to be teaching a workshop probably like within like a week or two after this is released and just
Is that
hosting.
virtual or in person? In person?
It's gonna be virtual. It's gonna be virtual.
Awesome.
It's gonna be webinar. It's gonna be recorded. It's like not only just me transmission teaching, but also like equipping people and being like, okay, check it. Now we're gonna go through an experiential XYZ so that you can get practice of what this feels like to actually do in your system. And yeah, so you get guided, like not in me doing something, but basically me guiding people in their own process because there's no substitute for you doing your own push-ups. Yeah. So
Amazing.
that's the most immediate thing that I got coming up. And then like, and then in another 6 months, I'll be running another iteration of my practitioner training as well. And I've got different collaborations, like in the field and kind of popping up between now and then. But those are the two main things that are basically on the horizon.
Awesome. Yeah. So anyone listening, if you want to check Mos Jef out, we've got his links down below or somewhere on the screen. Give him a follow, all of that. Thank you so much for being here.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for
Thank
trusting me. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, thank you for your ninja, Jedi, warrior magic that you do. It's really inspiring.
I appreciate you, and thanks for being, the type of person that resonates so hard with me because it's
Mm,
nice knowing that you're out there.
thank you. All right, Jeff, I'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Right on. Be well.